Well, hello and welcome to Wildcat Week. I'm Roger Alcock. IW football traveled to Adrian, Michigan this past weekend and took on the Sienna Heights Saints. Silas Weghorst was there and he has this recap.
The Wildcats suffered a hard-fought loss Saturday against the 23rd-ranked Sienna Heights Saints. The game started slowly. The Wildcats punted their first possession and blocked an attempted field goal by the Saints. The Wildcat offense couldn't connect over the Saints' defense, leaving them with a poor field position after a change of possession. The Saints capitalized on this and scored their first touchdown with 5:54 left in the first quarter. The Saints' defense forced the Wildcats to punt again. Once the Saints had the ball, it was a race to the end zone. The Wildcat defense shut down the Saints' running game, but two passes for over 44 yards took the Saints to the end zone, making the score 14-0. The Wildcats' offense couldn't maintain the line, resulting in a loss of yards and a turnover. Wildcat defense held the Saints until a 35-yard pass took them to the 1-yard line, and a rush landed the Saints in the end zone, making the score 21-0 with 10:24 left in the first half. The Wildcat offense returned with a different energy, completing passes to secure 2 first downs before punting the ball to the 16-yard line. The Wildcat defense held their ground before the Saints made a field goal, making the score 24-0. Wildcats replied with an unsuccessful field goal to end the first half. After halftime, the Wildcats turned the tables. The Saints punted the ball after a failed drive. The Wildcat offense picked up the ball at their 44-yard line and made quick work moving it down the field and into the end zone. This made the score 24-7 and showed the Saints that the Wildcats weren't going to be messed with. The Saints failed to respond and were forced to punt from their own 25-yard line. The Wildcats' offense couldn't be stopped as they rushed to the 18-yard line and kicked a field goal, making the score 24-10. As the third quarter concluded, overcast clouds moved in and brought a mix of hail and sleet that seemed to only bring more energy to the game. The Saints rushed the ball up the field and scored their final touchdown, making it 31-10 with 12:41 left in the fourth quarter. The weather was an issue for both teams as the fourth quarter went on, and neither team scored, although the Saints made it to the 1-yard line before the time ran out. With a final score of 31-10, the Wildcats put up a fight against their toughest opponent yet and showed once again they're a team to be taken seriously. For Wildcat Week, I'm Silas Weghorst.
Well, thank you, Silas. And now here to talk a little bit more about that game in detail is the head coach of the Wildcats, Coach Jordan Langs. And Coach, as we saw in Silas's report there, that first quarter was tough, and it got you a little bit out of your offensive game plan and made you get away from the run and have to throw to try to catch up. But you take that first quarter away, and it's a different ball game, and so I know you were proud of the effort your guys gave in terms of not giving up after getting down big.
Yeah, and I think our kids deserve a lot of credit for the way they fought the entire time, but for us to beat a team that good, we've got to execute well. In all 3 phases of the game, we didn't. We blocked the field goal, which was big time, and then offensively we stalled out twice, and then we have the bad snap on the punt that makes us defend a short field, and those are things against a really good team you can't do, and then we kind of got back on track in the second half.
Just putting in perspective, Sienna Heights, ranked number 23 in the nation, they very easily could have been undefeated. They had 1 loss, but that was on the road at St. Francis in overtime. So a really quality opponent. What I wanted to ask you is you talk about, and you've been very consistent in talking to this team about every experience is new and taking that experience, learning from it and growing from it. So, we've had the first home game and first home game, homecomings, road games, all those kinds of things. This was the first game against a top 20 ranked opponent, the kind of program you think we can get to in short order. But what did they learn from that experience?
Yeah, I think we handled the travel logistics well. I think we're learning and growing that way. We can't wait. We're good enough to be on that football field. We can't wait to try to test the waters to figure it out. We got to start right away in the first quarter, and we didn't do that. But then the biggest cultural step we took was that we weren't going to quit. We were going to keep fighting. And our kids came out and did just that. And we were very honest with them that for the next 30 minutes coming out of half is going to be hard. You're going to have to do hard things. You're going to have to do them for 30 more minutes. And our kids did that, and they began to execute, and that was a big deal.
Well, and they absolutely did in that third quarter. You guys won that quarter 10-0. You came out and moved the football and really did some good things defensively because they're a really good offense. But so I think to win that quarter and in its essence, win the half in it, that's something positive to take away from the game.
Yeah, it's a big deal. We're not really in this thing for moral victories, but when you're out there and you're good enough to win the ball game, that's obviously disappointing. But we came out of the halftime, we did exactly what our game plan said. We got 2 3-and-outs on defense. We scored a touchdown. Special teams got us a field goal. We had the ball in the third quarter, down 2 scores, and that's when we had to execute. We throw the interception that backs us up to a short field. So, but those first 3 drives of the game is a sign, it's just kind of a look for our kids of what we're capable of doing. We just can't test the waters.
Another positive I felt like was getting Dante Henderson back in the game. He's probably not 100%, but he was out there for his team, gutting it through, and he made some plays for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really had Dante since September 1st, and you're right, he's not completely to full capacity, but his energy out there, his competitiveness, his toughness, those are things that just really feed a lot of kids feed off of that, and we needed him. And we have a lot of talented players, but having another guy that comes in that can make plays like that's a big deal, and we're hoping that he continues to feel better.
Well, let's go now into the next game. Maybe coming off that second half performance of this game, maybe carrying some of that momentum in another road game against another really good team in Olivet Nazarene. What do we know about the Tigers of Olivet and what the Wildcats will face this weekend?
They're going to be really well coached. They're probably the most similar to us as anyone in that conference. They're super disciplined. They're well coached. They're going to have a plan. So we've got to be ready to go. I mean, it's not going to be a talent thing. We're going to be able to go toe-to-toe with them. They're going to have more experience and more size, things that we've been used to all year. That's totally okay, but we can't wait. We got to step into it. We've got to execute our game plan from the very beginning, and we got to go on the road into a good opponent at their homecoming again. So we've got to be ready to rock, and I'm excited to see how our kids develop and mature throughout this week to prepare.
Awesome. Well, Coach, once again, thanks for coming on in, and good luck this weekend against Olivet Nazarene.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, as we said, Wildcat football will be on the road. This Saturday, the game against the Tigers of Olivet Nazarene University is at 1 p.m. Well, when we come back, men's soccer is closing in on the end of its season and tournament play in the Crossroads League. So we'll talk to some players right after this. Well, welcome back to Wildcat Week. Men's soccer has only one game remaining on the regular season schedule before the Crossroads League tournament. Here to talk about themselves a little bit and their season so far is Luis Rocha and Bjorn Helm from the men's Wildcat soccer team. So first of all, guys, welcome to the show. I know this is a lifelong dream.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Well, let's start with this, and like I was telling you before we went on air, it's just this season we're trying to give viewers a little bit more of an inside look of the life of a student athlete here at Indiana Wesleyan. So Luis, we'll start with you. Maybe just give us an idea of where you're from, your hometown, what year you are here at Indiana Wesleyan, and what you're studying.
All right, so I'm from Chicago, and I'm studying psychology, and I'm a sophomore here. And I'm actually from a little suburb outside Chicago. It's called Bartlett.
Bartlett, okay. What other suburbs would that be close to?
Wheaton,
okay.
West Chicago, around that area.
Awesome. And Bjorn, how about you? Where are you from? What are you studying? And
I'm from Rockford, Michigan, great state of Michigan, and I don't actually have a major yet. I'm still deciding on a few things, not too sure. But I'm also a sophomore, and I'm loving every minute at Iowa.
Well, that was kind of my next question. It leads really well in there. When you're in high school, you're looking at colleges, you're maybe being recruited for different things. I'll ask you this first, Bjorn, but what was it about Indiana Wesleyan where I think that's where I want to go to school and play soccer? Kind of what was that process like, and what were the things that kind of sold you an IWU, so to speak?
Okay, gotcha. I think soccer was almost a plus to coming to the school. I think when I first visited, it was just such a great environment, very welcoming, and the people you'd go to, they'd always ask you your name, ask you where you're from, and I think, the first moment I stepped on campus, I was just kind of, I like the small campus. I like, everyone being able to get to know each other really well, and the close relationship with your professors and the students I also really enjoy. But I think as soon as I first stepped on campus, I kind of realized the environment, and I enjoyed it.
So Luis, you come from Chicago, a lot of schools in the Chicago area, but you decide to come to the metropolis of Marion. So that's a big culture shift. But what has your experience been like, and what kind of sold you on IW?
Well, I actually went to a private high school, a Christian high school. So when I came to visit IW, it was kind of similar, like the culture-wise and things like that. So I was familiar with it, and I like playing soccer was a plus as well. So yeah, that definitely shifted me.
I'll ask both of you this, but from playing high school soccer now to collegiate soccer, is there anything you can pinpoint and say, like, wow, this is the biggest difference of soccer at this level, or maybe the biggest challenge?
I'd definitely say age, for sure, because I mean, when you come to an NAI soccer team, there's a lot of players from all over the world, actually. So, I mean, you have 26-year-old grown men, you have 18-year-old, 17-year-old guys that are just getting to college. So I think the age difference is definitely big.
What about you, Luis?
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely just say the age different. Like, it's weird having players that you play against from all over the world, because the restrictions for NAIA are a little less. So you can play, like, we played Campbellsville, and their whole team was, I'm pretty sure, 9 out of 11 players were from England, and then the other 2 were from Sweden and some other country. So I'd everything, like the experience and like different styles of soccer that come together in NAIA. I think that's definitely the big difference.
Now, like we said, your regular season is starting to wind down, but that moves now into, the second season, so to speak, in terms of conference play. Let's take a look at your season so far. You guys are 8-6-2 overall. It's been a bit of a roller coaster year. You guys have played a really tough schedule. Been some great games, some ups and downs. Dropped a tough one to Bethel, but you've got one more game left against Goshen. How big is that game, Bjorn? How big is that game for you guys to finish up the regular season on a solid note?
I'd say it's everything. I think kind of, like you said, trying to end it on a solid note, and our last conference game with a win. I think also it's very big just to set us up for the games afterwards.
Luis, do we know much about Goshen? I mean, you experienced them last year, but what do we know about their team, and kind of what kind of effort is it going to take to maybe come away with a victory in that game?
I think it's going to take a lot of mental toughness from us, because last year they'd chirp from the bench. Their coach would be chirping at us. So I think we just got to stay focused on what we need to do to win the game, and not let distractions get in our way.
Last question for you guys. Once we get into the conference play, or a conference tournament, I should say, I would imagine kind of the intensity goes up a notch, the level of play, the level of focus. It just takes a little bit more energy and effort and focus in a conference tournament format, I would suppose. What is the key then to, in your conference tournament, to maybe come away with a win and moving on?
I definitely think it's peaking at the right time, and we've talked about this a lot. You don't want to peak too early, because then you start coming down, and before you get to the conference play, your team's beat up and tired and fatigued, like you've played so many games. So I definitely think peaking at the right moment is very important for us, and I think we can still do that.
Well, I know you had some injuries, and starting to get some guys back has been key too as well. So that's good news for the Wildcats. All right, well, guys, hey, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Best of luck against Goshen, and then as we move into conference play, tournament play, we'll be watching and reporting on the success of the Wildcats, hopefully.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Once again, the men's soccer team will be back in action Wednesday, October the 24th at Goshen. That game time is a 6 p.m. start. Well, when we come back, Mikala Woodfork will bring us the breakdown, and we'll talk to women's soccer head coach Daniel Seifert. Well, welcome back to Wildcat Week. We have so many sports competing on this campus. We usually don't have time to talk about all of them. But to bring us up to date, in a 2-minute drill, we welcome Mikala Woodfork with the breakdown.
Thanks, Roger. It was a tough week for the Wildcats this past week. Even though it was cold, windy, and rainy, men's golf was able to finish in 3rd place with a total score of 649 in the NAIA Midwest Invitational. In 1st place was Columbia College with 636, and in 2nd was Marian University with 645. Leading the way for the Wildcats were Patrick Hardy with a score of 161. Behind him was Daniel Dunn with 164, and then Ryan Cahill with 166. Men's cross country finished second out of 19 teams, just 7 points behind the number 2 ranked St. Francis at the NAIA Great Lakes Challenge. Jesse Saxton finished in second place at 25 minutes and 12 seconds. Chris Maxson was not far behind at 25:20, and Adrian Howard ran 26:08. The women were at the same invitational and finished 7th out of 20 teams. The top runners for the ladies were Yvette Rojas at 19:07, Christina Magers at 19:14, and Rebecca Groh at 19:17. Both men and women's soccer suffered a tough loss against Bethel College. The women lost 1-0. This is the first time in 6 years that the Pilots were able to beat the Wildcats in women's soccer, making it their second win against the Wildcats in 10 attempts total. The men also lost 1-0. The Pilots were able to score their first point in the 82nd minute. Eddie Hernandez was really close to tying the game in the 98th minute, but just couldn't get past the Pilots goalie. After the game, Coach Seifert said it was a sloppy game with the field and the weather, but the guys did a great job of fighting, and I'm proud. What a way to end a tough loss on a positive note. Wildcat Volleyball beat Olivet Nazarene in 3 close sets, making them 18-11 on the season. Marcy Miller is still on fire with 14 kills, 3 digs, and 3 block assists. The game before against St. Xavier, she had reached a new career high of 22 kills. Abigail Rutt also played a great game with 26 digs out of the team's 89 total digs. The football team lost against Sienna Heights, ending their 5-game winning streak. The Wildcats were down 24-0 at halftime, but were able to come back in the third quarter, scoring a touchdown, leaving the score at 24-10. An interception by Sienna Heights led to the Wildcats falling at 31-10. Finally, we get to dribble the ball again with men's basketball. The men were able to beat Governor State 86-48. 7-foot freshman Seth Maxwell came in strong in the first game, leading the team with 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 block shots, all in just 20 minutes. What an exciting way to start off this basketball season. Well, that's all I have for you this week for the breakdown. Back to you, Roger.
Well, thanks, Mikala. We look forward to the breakdown each and every week. Well, women's soccer is also just 1 game away from their Crossroads League tournament. And here to talk to us about Lady Wildcat Soccer is the head coach, Daniel Seifert. And Coach, thanks for joining us. Talk a little more about what's going on the soccer pitch.
Yeah.
Throw out a little soccer lingo.
I love it. I love it. No, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on the show and everything. But year's coming to an end. It comes fast. You get the team to all move in August 5th, and you feel like you blink, and then all of a sudden, postseason's right around the corner. So our last regular season game's on Wednesday, and then we'll figure out who we draw for the first match of the playoffs.
Well, before we get to the tournament, like you said, 1 more regular season game to go. Mm-hmm. Last game against Bethel, that was an important game that in so many ways you look at the stats, and this is one of those things where stats don't tell the whole story, but kind of dominated the ball in terms of like possession of the ball in your half of the field. You outshot them 10-3, outshot them 4-1 in terms of shots on goal, but their 1 shot on goal scored, and that's kind of how soccer goes sometimes, isn't it?
It's the brutal thing about the game of soccer is you can dominate every category statistically and still lose 1-0. So that 3 points cost us a bit. We thought that we were going to be able to finish, third or maybe even second potentially. And that loss definitely did not do us any favors. So now we just focus on our last game of the regular season, and the girls, they do a really good job of bouncing back and focusing on the process in the next game, and that's going to be kind of our mentality as we look to get ready for Goshen on Wednesday. Well,
against Goshen, you have 1 more regular season opportunity, maybe to get the offense turning a little bit. It sounds like you're getting shots and goals, but we were kind of joking beforehand, but in hockey, you'd say putting the biscuit in the basket and and just not getting it. Is Is there anything you can do other than just say, we just got to keep putting on goal, and they're going to start to come?
Yeah, well, that's the biggest thing that we're doing. I mean, every day, every week, every session, we are working on finishing.
Yeah.
It's one thing to shoot, but we work on scoring. That's our mentality, is how to put the ball in the net, as you would say, or the biscuit in the basket, which I love. But yeah, so that's the biggest thing is, I mean, we're creating opportunities. We created quite a few opportunities to put Bethel away early, and we just were missing left, missing right, or hitting it right at the goalkeeper. So that's definitely something that we'll be working on and continue to be working on every day from here on out.
I would imagine in soccer, like it is just with about any other sport, when there's a little bit of an offensive slump, players start to press a little bit and maybe get a little bit tighter and try to get too perfect and those kinds of things. And do you feel maybe that's a little bit going on? And or is it just like, hey, they're just not dropping for us?
Yeah, no, a little bit of both. I think our composure on the ball and specifically this last game where we had these opportunities and we started putting this unsurmounted pressure on ourselves where we're like, got to score, got to score, got to score, and we're focusing so much on one aspect that we kind of tighten up, like you said, you know, and we kind of, you know, mishit the ball or do something with it that we're not used to doing. So again, it's just rebuilding that confidence, rebuilding that repetition and that ability to be able to put the ball in the back of the net over and over and over again, so that when those opportunities come, which are normally few in the game of soccer, that we can capitalize on those.
Well, depending on the outcome of the Goshen game, in the first round of the conference tournament, pretty confident you're going to be either at Marion or at Mount Vernon Nazarene. Marion, a very good team, beat the #1 team in the nation earlier in Spring Arbor.
Correct.
But you played them to a draw earlier in this season, and then Mount Vernon Nazarene is a team you beat. So you got to feel confident that, you know, no matter who it is, you're going to be in the game.
Correct. Yeah, and we've played, I mean, 3 teams in the top 5, you know, 4 in the top 15. This season has been one of the most rigorous schedules that we've had. And so we know we can compete with the best of them. We played Spring Arbor to a 1-goal game. You know, we tied Marion, who's currently 17. They'll probably move up to round 11. You know, we've played another tough match in Cumberland's, which was a 1-goal game, and they're right now sitting at 8th in the nation. So we know that we have the talent. We know that we have the capabilities of playing with any single team in this country. It's just being able to provide a 90-minute match where we have no letdowns and really play a complete match. We have yet to do that this season, and I think once we do that, the belief and everything else will skyrocket.
How big is this Goshen game then to kind of get momentum building for a conference tournament? Because it changes some things, but it doesn't change a lot of things. But it can get you moving more in the direction you want to go.
Correct. Yeah. Every game is important for us. We kind of have this mindset of no game is bigger than another game, and so as you said, it kind of springboards into playoffs. So there are some, you know, as a coach, that's what you think of as the importance of it. But every game, every match in this league is a very challenging one, especially when you have 5 or 6 teams ranked in the top 25 or receiving votes category. The women's soccer league is a very challenging one. So every game is extremely important, and we know that we have to show up and hopefully, like you said, springboard into playoffs.
All right. Well, Coach, once again, thanks for joining us here on Wildcat Week. Women's soccer will be taking on Goshen. That game's at home Wednesday, the 24th. However, correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, this game will be at Oak Hill High School because of some field conditions. That game will be on the turf at Oak Hill High School.
Correct. Yep. They had a little bit of a fungus hit, so we're at the high school for this week.
A fungus among us. Is that what they say?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is all we have for you on this episode of Wildcat Week. If you would like to see more of Wildcat Week, you can visit our website, wiwtv.com. There you can watch past episodes and connect with us online. Once again, that's wiwtv.com. And you can stay connected with all our local programming by subscribing to our YouTube channel. That is WIWTV51 on YouTube. Well, we look forward to seeing you next week. So for all of us here, thank you for watching Wildcat Week.